This Wednesday, April 1st, 2026, the confrontation against Iran has entered a phase in which the anti-Tehran camp is no longer made up only of Israel and the United States. Gulf Arab nations have started to advocate for more pressure on the Iranian regime, while part of Europe has decided to limit direct military support for Donald Trump's efforts. The result is a double shock. In the Middle East, unity against the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is growing, while in Europe, resistance to following Washington to the end is increasing. What is happening in practice is a separation of blocs within the crisis itself. On one side, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and Bahrain. According to the Associated Press, they have been pressuring Trump behind the scenes to maintain the offensive, until Iran comes out much weaker, without the ability to threaten the region as before. The Emirates went further and have already shown willingness to participate in an international force aimed at reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Bahrain also advanced on the diplomatic front and brought a proposal to the Security Council, supported by Gulf Arab nations and the United States, to protect commercial shipping. This shows who is moving, where they are moving, and why. Because these nations know that if Tehran continues to have leverage over routes, ports, oil, and missiles, it could escalate even further. On the other hand, Europe does not appear as a full operational ally of Trump. Reuters reported that France denied overflight to aircraft linked to the transport of military material to Israel. Spain closed its airspace to American military flights. Italy also restricted the use of the Sigonella base. And in a war of this scale, blocking a route, a base, or logistical support changes the balance on the battlefield. This is exactly where the toughest political interpretation of this moment arises for Washington and for Trump's allies. Part of Europe doesn't need to deliver weapons to the Iranian regime to end up favoring Tehran. In practice, it's enough to hinder the American-Israeli operation, delay logistics, and bet on containment. While the Revolutionary Guard is still trying to resist, Reuters and AP show that this split has become one of the central points of the crisis. So much so that Trump began to publicly attack Europeans who refused to offer stronger support. And he even hinted that these nations will have to take care of their own energy security by themselves. It's a serious accusation, but it helps explain why Trump's rhetoric became so aggressive against London, Paris, and other European governments. Trump said on March 31 that the United States could end the military campaign in 2 to 3 weeks. And Marco Rubio stated that Washington already sees a possible finish line. Their stated goal is to degrade Iran's military capability, including missiles, drones, air defense, and the nuclear threat. This answers the how and why of the American operation targeting the regime's power structure to reduce its ability to attack and intimidate the region. Reuters reported that OPEC saw its production drop sharply in March due to the war and difficulties in international energy exports. It warned that April could bring an even greater impact on Europe, with supply shortages, inflationary pressure, and difficulties for fuels like diesel and aviation kerosene. That's why the Gulf Arab world has hardened its stance. It's not just about political support for Israel or Trump, but about economic survival, regime security, and control over the routes through which the region's wealth flows. Amid this situation, the United Kingdom is trying to reposition itself. Keir Starmer is already talking about deepening ties with Europe because of the shock caused by the war. And he announced a meeting with 35 nations to discuss the reopening of Hormuz and the protection of navigation. France and Japan have also stepped up coordination on the issue. This shows that Europe understands the magnitude of the problem, but it also shows something else. While the Gulf is calling for pressure and action, many Europeans prefer to work on post-war efforts, containment, and diplomacy. To Trump's camp, this sounds like hesitation at a time when the Revolutionary Guard has not yet been completely broken. In the end, the war against Iran is no longer just a war of bombs, missiles, and drones. It has become a war of positioning. On one side, Arab nations see Tehran as a direct threat and have come to accept France.
Apoiar ou até estimular mais pressão.
On the other side, a Europe that tries to protect itself, avoid getting fully involved in the conflict, and limit the political cost of following Trump to the end. The main message of this shift is harsh. The bloc against Iran is growing in the Middle East, but the Western bloc is splitting from within. And when allies block allies in the middle of a war, every political retreat becomes oxygen for the regime, which is still in practice. P.